A black man lay sprawled on the scorching asphalt in the middle of a summer afternoon. His arms and legs spread wide as if he were surrendering, but his eyes were unyielding. Sweat dripped from his temples and rolled down his sunburned cheeks, but his back remained straight, the kind of straightness that only those who have lived through iron discipline can maintain. No struggle, no resistance, just a suspicious calm in the midst of a dirty play. A few steps away, the white policeman crouched down, furtively stuffing a small bag into the trunk of his motorbike. As soon as the bag of evidence was in place, he straightened up, holding it high as if he had just captured a dangerous criminal. He smiled, his eyes full of complacency, and turned to nod to his comrades. A play they had performed too many times, but this time they had hit the wrong person. They mistook his silent gaze for resignation, mistook his motionless lying figure for surrender. Little did they know, the moment the police officer raised his bag of evidence with a triumphant smile, everything began to fall apart. The truth was never in their hands. It was silently rising like an earthquake, and when it exploded, no one would be able to cover up this crime. There would be nowhere to run. There would be no place to hide. 30 minutes earlier, Captain Marcus Thompson cruises through the affluent suburbs of Charlotte, North Carolina, on his pristine Ducati motorcycle. The 15-year Army veteran has just finished visiting his mother at the hospital, where she's recovering from cancer treatment. Still wearing civilian clothes, a black leather jacket, dark jeans, and combat boots, Thompson carries himself with the unmistakable bearing of a career military officer, his posture straight and movements precise even while riding. Thompson takes pride in his bike, a reward he purchased after his third deployment to Afghanistan. Every chrome detail gleams in the afternoon sun, and the engine purrs with the satisfaction of meticulous maintenance. As he navigates the tree-lined streets of this predominantly white neighborhood, Thompson notices the curious stares from residents tending their manicured lawns. He's used to it by now. A successful black man on an expensive motorcycle always draws attention in certain areas. The traffic stop begins routinely enough. Officer Brad Daniels, a 10-year veteran of the Charlotte Police Department, notices the motorcycle and decides to follow it for several blocks. Daniels has been having a frustrating week. His supervisor recently criticized his arrest numbers, and he's feeling pressure to show more proactive policing. When Thompson signals a perfectly legal right turn, Daniels flips on his emergency lights, claiming he observed an improper lane change. Thompson pulls over immediately, shutting off his engine and placing his hands visibly on the handlebars. His military training kicks in automatically: comply with lawful orders, de-escalate tension, and live to fight another day. Officer Daniels approaches with his partner, Officer Kevin Jenkins, a newer officer who's still learning the ropes. The moment Daniels sees Thompson's face, his demeanor shifts subtly but noticeably. "This your bike?" Daniels asks, his tone already carrying an edge of suspicion that has nothing to do with any traffic violation. Thompson responds politely, "Yes, sir, it is." But Daniels isn't satisfied with simple answers. "Where'd you get the money for something like this? You work around here?" The questions escalate quickly beyond the scope of any traffic stop, and Thompson recognizes the dangerous direction this encounter is heading. Thompson provides his driver's license, registration, and insurance documents, all legitimate and up to date, but instead of checking the paperwork and issuing a citation, Daniels radios for backup, citing a suspicious vehicle possible theft investigation. Thompson's jaw tightens as he hears the coded language that transforms a routine traffic stop into something much more sinister. He knows exactly what those words mean in police vernacular, and he activates the discreet recording app on his phone, beginning to live stream to a secure military channel. Within minutes, 2 additional patrol cars arrive on the scene. Neighbors begin emerging from their houses, some openly gawking at the spectacle, others discreetly filming with their smartphones. Daniels plays to his growing audience, his voice becoming more authoritative and aggressive with each passing moment. "Step off the bike, now," he commands, though Thompson has shown no signs of resistance or aggression. Thompson complies with military precision, dismounting slowly with his hands visible at all times. His movements are deliberate and controlled, the result of years of training in high-stress situations. But this calm compliance seems to enrage Daniels further, as if Thompson's composure somehow challenges his authority. "You think you're better than me?" Daniels snarls, stepping closer than necessary. "No, sir, I'm just trying to comply with your instructions." Thompson responds evenly, maintaining eye contact without appearing confrontational. His military bearing is unmistakable: the straight posture, the precise way he speaks, the respectful but unwavering tone. Officer Jenkins begins to shift uncomfortably, sensing that this encounter is escalating beyond what the situation warrants. Thompson's phone buzzes repeatedly in his pocket, important calls that he cannot answer while detained. Daniels notices the constant vibration and grows more suspicious. "Turn that thing off. You're not calling anybody," he barks, grabbing the phone and examining the screen. He sees multiple contacts with military titles and Pentagon numbers, but instead of recognizing the significance, he mocks them. "What's this about? You some kind of wannabe soldier, weekend warrior, paintball champion?" The insult hits deeper than any physical blow could. Thompson has served 3 combat deployments, earned a Purple Heart, and currently holds a top-secret security clearance. To have his service mocked by a civilian police officer who has never worn the uniform strikes at the core of his identity. For the first time, a crack appears in Thompson's composure, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. Daniels decides to escalate the situation further, perhaps sensing that he's finally gotten under Thompson's skin. "On the ground! Spread eagle!" he commands, despite having no legal justification for such an extreme measure. Thompson hesitates for a crucial moment. His military training conflicts with the civilian reality he faces. Every instinct tells him to resist this unlawful order, but his survival instincts override his pride. Thompson slowly lowers himself to the hot asphalt, feeling the rough pavement through his jeans as Daniels plants a knee on his back with unnecessary force. The weight is painful and humiliating, designed more to assert dominance than ensure compliance. "Search the bike thoroughly," Daniels tells Jenkins, who reluctantly begins going through Thompson's saddlebags and storage compartments. The crowd of onlookers grows larger and more vocal. "This is wrong!" someone shouts from across the street. "Call this in!" yells another. "Someone's recording!" The community response seems to fuel Daniels' determination to prove his authority. He presses harder on Thompson's back, causing the decorated veteran to grunt involuntarily from the pain. Jenkins searches the motorcycle meticulously but finds nothing suspicious. Just basic tools, registration papers, and a spare jacket. The bike is immaculate, clearly well-maintained and legally owned, but Daniels isn't about to let facts interfere with his narrative. While Jenkins is distracted by the crowd, Daniels discreetly retrieves a small evidence baggie from his pocket, a trick he's used before when arrests don't yield the results he needs. With theatrical flair, Daniels discovers the planted evidence in Thompson's storage compartment, holding it up for everyone to see. "Well, well, what do we have here?" he announces loudly, ensuring the crowd can witness his supposed victory. Thompson's blood runs cold as he realizes the full scope of what's happening. This isn't just harassment or profiling. It's a complete frame-up that could destroy his military career, his security clearance, and his life. "That's not mine, officer," Thompson states calmly, despite the rage building inside him. Years of combat discipline allow him to maintain control even as his world threatens to collapse around him. Daniels smirks with satisfaction. "Sure it isn't, there never are." He calls for a transport van while announcing charges of possession with intent to distribute. Thompson realizes the trap has been perfectly executed. Not only will he face criminal charges, but asset forfeiture laws will allow them to seize his motorcycle as evidence. The bystanders continue recording and their videos begin spreading across the internet within minutes. But Thompson has bigger concerns than social media attention. His broken phone had been displaying base emergency notifications before Daniels confiscated it. His unit needs him, and command doesn't know where he is. As he lies on the hot pavement, Thompson makes a critical decision. It's time to stop fighting the system from within and call in outside pressure. In the back of the patrol car, handcuffed and facing the destruction of everything he's worked for, Thompson enters what the military calls tactical mindset. This is now a mission with clear parameters. Survive the immediate threat, expose the corruption, and protect the integrity of his military service. The humiliation burns, but Thompson has been broken by professionals in survival training. Officer Daniels is strictly amateur hour by comparison. Daniels drives slowly through the neighborhood, savoring his victory and making sure the community witnesses Thompson's arrest. "You military boys think you're special?" he taunts from the front seat. "News flash. You're not worth anything in the civilian world, boy." Each word is carefully chosen to break Thompson's spirit. But 15 years of military service have prepared him for psychological warfare far more sophisticated than this small-town cop's crude attempts. At the police station, Thompson exercises his right to make one phone call. Instead of calling a lawyer, which is what Daniels expects, Thompson makes a strategic decision that will change everything. He calls his executive officer at Fort Bragg. "Sir, Captain Thompson, I need immediate assistance. I've been falsely arrested, evidence has been planted, and the situation is escalating rapidly. My security clearance is at risk." The executive officer immediately recognizes the code phrases Thompson is using. This isn't a standard civilian legal matter. This is a potential military security breach involving a field-grade officer with access to classified information. "Give me your exact location, Captain," the XO responds, already reaching for his secure phone to initiate the military's protective protocols. Thompson provides the details while Daniels eavesdrops from across the booking area. "Military? You're actually military?" Daniels asks, the first seed of doubt creeping into his voice, but his pride won't allow him to back down now, not after committing so completely to his course of action. The desk sergeant, a former Marine, overhears the conversation and shoots Daniels a questioning look that carries volumes of meaning. Within minutes of Thompson's call, the military machine begins to move with the efficiency that has made the United States Armed Forces the most powerful institution in human history. The executive officer contacts Thompson's commanding officer, who immediately calls the base commander. The base legal officer reviews the civilian arrest reports and finds glaring discrepancies in the timeline and evidence. Body camera footage is officially requested through federal channels. Back at Fort Bragg, Thompson's phone, now sitting in the police evidence room, continues buzzing with incoming calls from increasingly important military officials. Pentagon staff officers, Joint Chiefs personnel and base commanders, all trying to reach an officer who has suddenly vanished from military radar. Each missed call escalates the concern level throughout the military hierarchy. Thompson sits in his holding cell, using combat breathing techniques to maintain his composure. 15 years of distinguished service, multiple combat deployments, and a spotless record have led to this moment in a small-town jail cell. But Thompson knows something that Daniels doesn't. The United States military does not abandon its own, especially when they're under attack. At Fort Bragg, the base command center transforms into a hub of controlled activity. The base commander, Colonel Sarah Martinez, reviews the situation with her senior staff. A decorated field-grade officer with top-secret clearance has been arrested on questionable drug charges, with evidence suggesting police misconduct and potential civil rights violations. This isn't just a legal matter. It's a threat to military-civilian relations and potentially a national security issue. The base legal officer places an official inquiry call to the Charlotte Police Department. "We have serious concerns about the arrest procedures involving our officer," he states in the measured tone that military lawyers use when they're about to unleash federal power. The police chief initially responds dismissively. "Your boy was caught red-handed with illegal substances." "Our boy is a decorated captain with a top-secret security clearance who has never had so much as a parking ticket," the lawyer responds coldly. "Are you absolutely certain about the integrity of your evidence?" The question hangs in the air like a challenge, and the police chief begins to feel the first stirrings of doubt about Daniels' arrest report. Meanwhile, word spreads through Thompson's unit at Fort Bragg. These are soldiers who have served alongside their captain in some of the most dangerous places on Earth. They've watched him lead from the front, make impossible decisions under fire, and bring everyone home safely. The idea that their respected leader is sitting in a civilian jail on trumped-up charges ignites a carefully controlled fury throughout the ranks. The soldiers request permission to respond, their military discipline barely containing their desire to mobilize immediately. Colonel Martinez weighs her options carefully. A full military response could escalate the situation dangerously, but Thompson's security clearance makes this a legitimate national security concern. She reaches a measured compromise that will send an unmistakable message. "Prepare a convoy," she orders her staff. "Full protocol, dress uniforms, everything by the book. We're going to retrieve our officer." The command spreads through the base like wildfire. Vehicle operators, military police, communications specialists and senior officers all begin preparing for what will become a textbook display of military precision and power. Social media begins to explode with videos from the arrest scene. Multiple camera angles show the traffic stop, the planted evidence, and Thompson's dignified behavior throughout the ordeal. Veteran organizations and military families start sharing their own stories of similar treatment, creating a groundswell of support for the arrested captain. Back in his cell, Thompson remains calm and focused, but Officer Daniels is beginning to feel the pressure. Other officers at the station are asking uncomfortable questions about the arrest. The desk sergeant keeps looking at him with barely concealed disgust. Even Officer Jenkins has started avoiding eye contact, clearly troubled by what he witnessed. The first Humvee arrives at the police station like a herald of what's to come. Then the second, then the third. Soon, a full military convoy, 12 vehicles carrying 50 soldiers in dress uniforms, forms a precise formation in the police station parking lot. This isn't a combat deployment, but the message is unmistakable and devastating in its implications. Police officers peer through the station windows at the military formation with a mixture of awe and growing concern. "What the hell is happening out there?" one officer mutters, but everyone in the building knows exactly what's happening. The United States military has come to collect one of their own, and the sight is both impressive and ominous. Colonel Martinez's command vehicle arrives last, and she steps out with the bearing of someone who has commanded thousands of soldiers in combat zones around the world. Accompanying her are the base legal officer and a team of military police investigators. Civilians stop on the sidewalk to stare at the unprecedented display of military presence in their quiet suburban community. Martinez enters the police station with the calm confidence of someone who holds federal authority and isn't afraid to use it. "I'm Colonel Martinez, and I'm here for Captain Thompson," she announces to the desk sergeant, who immediately recognizes the voice of command authority. The police chief, now sweating despite the air conditioning, tries to maintain his civilian authority in the face of obvious federal power. "He's under arrest on civilian charges," the chief insists, but his voice lacks conviction. Martinez's legal officer spreads arrest documents, body camera footage requests, and federal inquiry papers across the chief's desk with methodical precision. "We've found numerous discrepancies in your arrest report," the lawyer states matter-of-factly. "Timeline inconsistencies, evidence handling irregularities, and what appears to be civil rights violations. Outside, the soldiers maintain perfect formation, their discipline absolute and their message crystal clear. They protect their own, and anyone who threatens a member of their military family will face the full weight of institutional power." The sight is both beautiful and terrifying. Democracy's finest citizens standing united against injustice. Officer Jenkins, watching from a window, finally finds his courage and approaches the police chief privately. "Sir, I need to report concerns about the arrest. Officer Daniels was aggressive beyond policy, and I witnessed irregularities in evidence handling." The dam is beginning to crack, and everyone in the building can feel the pressure building. Daniels realizes the magnitude of his mistake as the implications crash down around him. What started as a routine traffic stop to boost his arrest statistics has spiraled into a federal incident involving military personnel, civil rights violations, and potential criminal charges against him personally. His career, his pension, and his freedom are all suddenly at risk. The police chief faces an impossible choice. He can continue to support Daniels and face a federal investigation that will expose years of departmental problems, or he can cut his losses and try to salvage what remains of his department's reputation. The choice isn't really a choice at all. Inside the police station, the tension reaches a breaking point as Colonel Martinez delivers an ultimatum that carries the full weight of federal authority. "Chief, you have two options. Release Captain Thompson immediately and cooperate with our investigation, or face federal charges for violating the civil rights of a military officer. Choose wisely." The police chief's face drains of color as he realizes the full scope of what he's facing. This isn't just about one arrest anymore. It's about his entire department's future, his career, and potentially his freedom. Federal investigations have a way of uncovering problems that departments thought were safely buried, and the chief knows his department has more skeletons than just Officer Daniels. Daniels makes one final, desperate attempt to salvage the situation. "The evidence doesn't lie," he insists, his voice cracking slightly. "I found drugs in his motorcycle. That's a fact." But the military legal officer calmly presents a tablet showing body camera footage from multiple angles. "Officer Daniels, this footage clearly shows you planting evidence at timestamp 14 minutes and 32 seconds. That's a federal crime." The blood drains from Daniels' face as he realizes that modern surveillance technology has caught him in the act. He hadn't noticed all the cameras: police body cams, civilian smartphones, security cameras from nearby businesses. His foolproof evidence planting has been documented from multiple angles, creating an ironclad case against him. Officer Jenkins, no longer able to stay silent, steps forward. "I witnessed Officer Daniels place that evidence in Captain Thompson's motorcycle. I was wrong not to report it immediately, and I'm prepared to testify to what I saw." The betrayal hits Daniels like a physical blow, but he has no one to blame but himself for putting his partner in an impossible position. Thompson emerges from the holding cell with his dignity intact and his military bearing unmistakable. Other police officers see him now for what he truly is: not a criminal, but a decorated soldier who has served his country with honor. The automatic respect that military service commands in American society finally asserts itself, but it's too late to undo the damage. Colonel Martinez addresses the assembled police officers with the calm authority of someone who has commanded troops in combat. "Gentlemen, this incident represents a serious breakdown in civilian-military relations. Captain Thompson's treatment was unacceptable, and there will be federal consequences. We protect our own, and we expect professional courtesy in return." The convoy prepares to depart, but Colonel Martinez isn't finished delivering her message. She turns back to the police chief one final time. "Chief, this investigation is just beginning. Federal prosecutors will review every aspect of this case, and they'll be looking closely at your department's patterns and practices. I suggest you start preparing for some very uncomfortable questions." As Thompson walks out of the police station, flanked by his military escort, the crowd of civilians who have gathered applauds spontaneously. They've witnessed something extraordinary. The United States military standing up for one of their own against injustice, and the sight gives them hope that accountability is still possible in America. As Thompson reaches his motorcycle in the police parking lot, his phone, now returned to him, begins ringing with an incoming call. The crowd watches as he answers professionally. "Captain Thompson speaking." The voice on the other end is loud enough for nearby people to hear clearly, and what they hear stops everyone in their tracks. "Captain, this is General Morrison from the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Are you secure?" The collective gasp from the crowd is audible. Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest military authority in the United States, advisors to the President himself. Thompson isn't just any military officer. He's connected to the very pinnacle of American military power. "Yes, sir, the situation has been resolved," Thompson responds with military precision, but General Morrison's next words send shockwaves through everyone listening. "Outstanding. Your security clearance review has been completed with no issues found. Return to base immediately. The President wants his cybersecurity briefing moved up to Monday morning." The President of the United States. Thompson works directly with the Commander-in-Chief on matters of national security. Officer Daniels didn't just arrest a random soldier. He arrested a military officer with direct access to the Oval Office, someone who briefs the most powerful person in the world on critical cybersecurity protocols that protect American democracy itself. Colonel Martinez steps forward to address General Morrison directly. "General, this is Colonel Martinez at Fort Bragg. The situation required a full response from our command. Civilian authorities planted evidence on Captain Thompson and violated his civil rights. We're requesting a complete federal investigation." "Absolutely unacceptable." General Morrison's voice carries across the parking lot with unmistakable authority. "Captain Thompson's security clearance makes him a national security asset. Any attack on his person or reputation is an attack on American military readiness. Federal prosecutors are authorized to pursue this case with maximum resources. The gathered crowd realizes they've witnessed something extraordinary. This isn't just police brutality against a citizen. It's an attack on a key member of the military chain of command that protects American national security. The implications are staggering, and the consequences for Officer Daniels are about to become truly catastrophic. Media crews begin arriving as word spreads about the military response. Local news, national networks, and military publications all scramble to cover a story that has exploded far beyond a simple traffic stop. Thompson's case represents something larger: the intersection of racial justice, military honor, and American values under pressure. Thompson addresses the reporters with the calm professionalism that comes from years of high-level briefings. "I serve my country proudly, and today my country served me." This demonstrates why civilian-military cooperation matters and why justice matters. No one should face what I experienced today, regardless of their race, appearance, or background. Questions flood in from journalists. "Captain, what's your role in Washington? How often do you brief senior leadership? What cybersecurity protocols are you responsible for?" Thompson deflects classified information with practiced skill, but the message is crystal clear. Officer Daniels picked the wrong target on the wrong day. The police chief watches his career implode in real time as the scope of the incident becomes clear. Federal investigation guaranteed, department reputation shattered, and reform demanded by angry constituents who have witnessed military precision confronting police misconduct. His quiet suburban department has become ground zero for a national conversation about accountability and justice. Officer Daniels stands isolated and shunned by his fellow officers, who now understand that association with him means career suicide. He's become radioactive in law enforcement circles, a cautionary tale about the consequences of letting prejudice override professionalism. His life as he knew it is over, and the legal consequences haven't even begun yet. 72 hours after Thompson's arrest, the federal investigation moves with the efficiency and resources that only the United States government can deploy when one of its key assets has been attacked. FBI agents interview witnesses, review evidence, and analyze body camera footage that provides irrefutable proof of Officer Daniels' misconduct. The case against him is so airtight that federal prosecutors begin preparing charges immediately. Thompson returns to his Pentagon duties, where his cybersecurity briefing with the president proceeds as scheduled. The incident has been noted at the highest levels of government, with presidential security teams reviewing protocols for protecting key military personnel from civilian law enforcement overreach. Enhanced security measures are quietly implemented to prevent similar incidents in the future. Civil rights organizations mobilize with unprecedented speed and coordination. The NAACP, ACLU, and Veterans Legal Services recognize Thompson's case as a perfect symbol of systemic problems that plague American society. His military service provides protection that most victims of police misconduct lack, but his experience demonstrates that even privilege has limits when confronted with institutional racism. Media coverage intensifies as national outlets pick up the story. Headlines read, "Decorated officer framed by police," "Military mobilizes for mistreated captain," and "Pentagon investigates police misconduct." The narrative that emerges resonates across demographic lines: military families outraged by disrespect to service members, civil rights advocates energized by clear evidence of misconduct, and law and order conservatives troubled by police corruption. The Charlotte Police Department faces multiple simultaneous crises that threaten its very existence. Internal Affairs launches an investigation into Daniels' conduct and discovers a pattern of questionable arrests that had been overlooked or ignored by supervisors. Previous complaints from minority citizens, dismissed as routine grievances, suddenly appear in a different light when viewed as part of a systematic pattern of abuse. Federal civil rights investigators from the Department of Justice arrive to conduct a comprehensive review of department policies and practices. Pattern and practice investigations have the power to place entire police departments under federal oversight, stripping local control and imposing court-mandated reforms that can last for decades. Congressional oversight follows quickly behind. The House Armed Services Committee announces hearings on military-civilian relations, with Thompson invited to testify about his experience. The Senate Judiciary Committee schedules its own hearings on police accountability, recognizing that Thompson's case provides a unique window into problems that typically remain hidden from public view. The financial consequences for the city begin mounting immediately. Insurance premiums spike as liability concerns escalate. Legal settlements for Daniels' previous victims are anticipated to reach millions of dollars. The municipal budget, already strained by years of modest tax revenues, faces the prospect of massive lawsuit payouts that could bankrupt essential city services. Personnel problems compound the financial crisis as police officers request transfers to other departments to escape the toxic atmosphere. Recruitment becomes nearly impossible as the department's reputation makes it radioactive to qualified candidates. Community relations deteriorate further as residents lose confidence in their local police protection. Officer Daniels faces a devastating array of federal charges: civil rights violations, evidence tampering, false imprisonment, perjury in official reports, and abuse of authority under color of law. Each charge carries significant prison time, and federal prosecutors have a conviction rate that approaches 98%. His legal team advises accepting a plea bargain, acknowledging that trial would likely result in even harsher sentences. Officer Jenkins, who cooperated with investigators and testified against his former partner, keeps his job but faces disciplinary action and mandatory retraining. His testimony proves crucial for federal prosecutors, providing insider perspective on Daniels' pattern of misconduct and the department's failure to address obvious warning signs. The police chief announces a comprehensive reform package designed to prevent future incidents. Mandatory bias training, enhanced body camera policies, citizen oversight boards, use of force reviews, and community policing initiatives. Critics dismiss these measures as inadequate window dressing that fails to address underlying cultural problems within the department. Thompson's civil lawsuit against the city proceeds on a parallel track, seeking damages for emotional distress, career impact, security clearance jeopardy, property damage, and civil rights violations. The city's insurance company settles quickly and quietly, paying an undisclosed sum that sources describe as substantial. The settlement sets a precedent for similar cases and sends a clear message about the financial costs of police misconduct. 6 months later, Officer Brad Daniels sits at the defendant's table in federal court, a shadow of his former self. The confident, aggressive cop who planted evidence and mocked military service has been replaced by a broken man in an ill-fitting suit, his career destroyed and his future measured in years of federal imprisonment. Federal prosecutor Maria Santos presents a devastating case that methodically destroys any possible defense. Video evidence plays on courtroom screens showing Daniels planting evidence with crystal clarity. Gasps from the gallery accompany each replay, and even Daniels' own attorney winces at the damning footage that makes conviction inevitable. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Santos addresses the court with quiet authority. This case isn't about police work or law enforcement. This is about a corrupt officer who violated his sacred oath, broke federal law, and attacked a decorated military officer because of racial prejudice and personal bias. The defense attorney's strategy centers on claiming that Daniels acted within department norms and cultural expectations, a dangerous gambit that essentially argues systematic corruption as a defense for individual crimes. The jury appears unmoved by arguments that attempt to normalize misconduct that they can see clearly documented on video. Thompson testifies with the same military precision that served him during his arrest. He presents facts without emotion, allowing the evidence to speak for itself in a way that proves devastatingly effective. Cross-examination fails completely, as Thompson's story remains consistent and his credibility unshakable under aggressive questioning. "Did you resist arrest at any point?" the defense attorney asks desperately. "No, sir. My military training emphasizes de-escalation and compliance with lawful authority," Thompson responds calmly. "Did you threaten the officers in any way?" "No, sir. I maintained a respectful demeanor throughout the encounter, as required by military regulations." Officer Jenkins testifies next, his cooperation agreement secured through his willingness to tell the truth about what he witnessed. He describes Daniels' pattern of misconduct, the pressure to participate in questionable arrests, and his own fear of retaliation for reporting problems within the department. "Did you personally witness Officer Daniels plant evidence?" Santos asks directly. "Yes, ma'am. I watched him place that bag in Captain Thompson's motorcycle compartment." Jenkins responds, his voice barely above a whisper. "Did you object to this illegal action?" "I should have, and I was wrong not to report it immediately. I'm deeply sorry for my failure." Additional victims testify about their experiences with Daniels, creating a clear pattern of misconduct that spans years. A young black college student describes losing his job because of a false arrest record. A Hispanic mother tells the court about missing her daughter's high school graduation while fighting bogus drug charges. A military spouse explains how her husband's deployment was complicated by her own arrest on planted evidence. Thompson's victim impact statement proves most powerful of all. "I took an oath to defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic," he tells the court. Officer Daniels became a domestic enemy of constitutional rights when he violated his own oath and attacked the principles that make America great. Justice requires accountability, not just for my case, but for every citizen who deserves equal protection under law. During the sentencing phase, Federal Judge Patricia Williams reviews the evidence, impact statements, and legal precedents with obvious gravity. Federal sentencing guidelines provide severe penalties for civil rights violations, reflecting society's recognition that police misconduct strikes at the heart of democratic governance. "Mr. Daniels," Judge Williams addresses the defendant directly, "you wore the badge of honor and turned it into a weapon of oppression. You violated the sacred trust between police and community, and you attacked a military officer who has dedicated his life to defending our nation and our Constitution. Your actions weren't a momentary lapse in judgment or a mistake made under pressure. The evidence shows a deliberate pattern of misconduct spanning multiple years. You destroyed lives, violated fundamental rights, and corrupted the justice system that citizens depend on for protection. Federal law provides serious penalties for civil rights violations because these crimes threaten the foundation of our democracy. When police officers abuse their power, they undermine the rule of law that protects all citizens." Judge Williams announces the sentence with finality. 8 years in federal prison, followed by 3 years of supervised release. You are permanently barred from law enforcement employment and will pay restitution to victims totaling $2.3 million. Daniels breaks down completely as the reality of his situation finally penetrates his denial. His wife flees the courtroom in tears, his children refuse to visit him in prison, and his law enforcement career ends in complete disgrace. Every choice that led to this moment traces back to his decision to see a successful black man and assume criminality. 1 year after Thompson's arrest, his case has catalyzed a nationwide police reform movement that extends far beyond one corrupt officer or one problematic department. The Thompson protocols have been implemented across hundreds of police departments, creating new standards for military recognition training, evidence handling procedures, and bias prevention programs. Military recognition training helps officers identify and appropriately respect military service members, while cultural competency programs address the broader challenges of military-civilian relations in communities near military installations. Police academies now include mandatory coursework on military culture, veteran issues, and the unique legal protections that service members enjoy under federal law. Evidence handling reforms have revolutionized police procedures through mandatory body cameras during all searches, tamper-proof systems that prevent evidence planting, and enhanced chain of custody protocols that make misconduct easier to detect and prosecute. The technology that exposed Daniels' crimes has become standard equipment, making police misconduct more difficult to hide and easier to document. Congressional action follows public pressure as the House Armed Services Committee passes bipartisan legislation creating enhanced legal protections for military service members in the civilian justice system. The Military Member Protection Act provides federal resources for service members facing civilian legal challenges and creates new penalties for targeting military personnel. The Department of Justice responds with expanded pattern and practice investigations, increased federal oversight of problematic departments, and more aggressive prosecution of police misconduct cases. Civil rights enforcement budgets increase significantly, reflecting renewed political commitment to accountability and reform. Progressive police chiefs embrace the changes as necessary evolution rather than unwanted interference. Thompson's case shows what happens when we fail our communities, explains Chief Rebecca Martinez of Austin, Texas. Reform isn't optional anymore, it's essential for survival. Departments that don't change will face federal intervention or community rejection. Law enforcement training academies revise their curricula to emphasize constitutional rights education, de-escalation techniques, and community service over aggressive tactics. New officers learn from Thompson's case as an example of how prejudice and poor judgment can destroy careers and communities. Technology solutions continue advancing as body camera systems become more sophisticated, with real-time upload capabilities that prevent tampering and artificial intelligence monitoring that can identify misconduct patterns before they escalate. Civilian oversight applications allow community members to rate police interactions and provide feedback that helps identify both excellent and problematic officers. Educational initiatives expand as law schools add police accountability courses to their standard curriculum. Community colleges offer law enforcement programs that emphasize community service and constitutional principles. And high school civics classes include police accountability education that teaches students their rights and responsibilities. The cultural shift extends beyond formal policy changes, as military communities nationwide report improved police relations through mutual respect programs that show positive results. Veteran organizations partner with civil rights groups around shared commitment to constitutional principles, building coalitions that cross traditional political lines. Despite progress, significant challenges remain as reform implementation varies widely by jurisdiction, funding constraints limit program expansion, and cultural change proves slow but steady. Thompson's case provided a catalyst for change, but sustaining that momentum requires continued vigilance and community engagement. 2 years after his arrest, Major Marcus Thompson, recently promoted, sits in his Pentagon office reviewing cybersecurity protocols that protect American democracy from foreign interference. His military career has not only survived the incident, but flourished, with expanded responsibilities and direct access to the highest levels of government. The attempted destruction of his reputation has instead elevated his profile as a symbol of military honor and civilian accountability. A knock on his office door interrupts his work as a young soldier delivers an invitation that brings a smile to Thompson's face. Washington High School has requested him as a guest speaker for their Veterans Day assembly. These invitations have become routine, but Thompson considers them more important than briefing senior government officials. Education and community engagement represent the real work of preventing future incidents. At the high school auditorium, Thompson faces an audience of students, teachers, and parents who represent America's future. He wears his dress uniform with visible decorations, but his message isn't about military achievement or personal success. Instead, he talks about justice, accountability, and the responsibility that every citizen bears for protecting constitutional rights. 2 years ago, I was arrested for driving while black, Thompson tells the assembly with characteristic directness. That's not an official charge, but that's exactly what happened. A police officer saw a successful black man on an expensive motorcycle and assumed I must be a criminal. His prejudice blinded him to obvious facts and led to terrible decisions that destroyed his career and damaged his community. The students listen intently as Thompson continues. I had advantages that most people don't have when facing police misconduct. Military training kept me calm under pressure. My chain of command mobilized institutional resources. Federal prosecutors took my case seriously because of my security clearance. Media attention followed because I was a military officer with an interesting story. But what happens to citizens who don't have those advantages? What about your parents, your siblings, your friends, who might face similar situations without institutional support? Their stories matter just as much as mine, but they don't always get the same attention or resources. A student raises her hand with a question that cuts to the heart of the matter. Are you still angry about what happened to you? Thompson pauses thoughtfully before responding. I was angry, and anger was an appropriate response to injustice. But anger without action is just emotion. I channeled my anger into advocacy, education, and reform efforts that might prevent future victims. The officer who arrested me lost everything: his career, his pension, his family relationships, and his freedom. I don't celebrate his destruction because it represents wasted human potential and the pain of his victims. Revenge might have felt satisfying for a moment, but lasting reform creates change that protects future generations. Thompson's broader message resonates throughout the auditorium. Military service teaches that individual actions have collective consequences. One soldier's bad decision can endanger an entire unit, while one person's courage can save lives. The same principle applies to civilian life. How we treat each other, how we respond to injustice, and how we build or tear down community trust all have ripple effects. After his presentation, students approach with questions, stories, and concerns that reflect their generation's understanding of justice issues. Thompson listens carefully and provides contact information for legal advocacy resources, emphasizing that every voice matters in the ongoing work of reform. A young black student expresses fear about police encounters, and Thompson offers practical advice about knowing rights, staying calm, recording when safe, and seeking help afterward. Fear is smart because it keeps you safe, he explains, but don't let fear prevent you from living fully or pursuing your dreams. Driving home through the same neighborhood where he was arrested, Thompson notices different officers patrolling with improved community relations, though he recognizes that progress remains incomplete. The work of reform continues daily through policy changes, training improvements, and community engagement that builds trust, slowly but steadily. His phone rings with a call from his mother, who has fully recovered from her cancer treatment and returned to her active retirement lifestyle. Family dinners have resumed their regular schedule, and Thompson's priorities have clarified through his experience. Professional success matters, but family relationships and community service provide life's real meaning. "How was your speech today, son?" his mother asks, with maternal pride evident in her voice. "Really good, Mom. I think some of those students will grow up to make positive changes in their communities." "You've already made a difference," she responds warmly. "Now, you're teaching others to multiply that impact." Thompson's story demonstrates that justice isn't just about punishment after wrongdoing occurs. It's about prevention, protection, and progress that benefits all citizens. True accountability requires systemic change that addresses root causes rather than simply responding to individual incidents after damage has been done. As Thompson's story concludes, viewers are left with both inspiration and responsibility. His experience represents thousands of similar cases across America, some with positive outcomes like his, but many others that end in tragedy or injustice when victims lack institutional support or public attention. The difference often comes down to resources, community engagement, and the determination of ordinary citizens to demand accountability from their institutions. Every person watching this story has the power to influence these outcomes through both immediate actions and long-term commitments to justice. Knowing your constitutional rights during police encounters provides essential protection, while recording interactions when safely possible creates evidence that can expose misconduct or exonerate innocent parties. Reporting police misconduct through proper channels helps identify problem officers before their behavior escalates, and supporting legal advocacy organizations provides resources for victims who might otherwise lack representation. Voting for candidates who support comprehensive police reform translates individual concern into policy change that affects entire communities. Long-term engagement requires sustained commitment beyond viral moments and social media outrage. Community policing initiatives need civilian participation to succeed, while military veteran services require ongoing support from grateful communities. Criminal justice reform advocacy demands persistent pressure on elected officials, who often prefer avoiding controversial topics. Building bridges across racial, cultural, and professional divides helps prevent the misunderstandings and prejudices that led to Thompson's arrest. Teaching young people about constitutional rights and civic responsibility prepares the next generation to protect democracy more effectively than their predecessors. Thompson's case proves that accountability works when systems function properly, but systemic problems persist while reform efforts continue. Police misconduct still occurs despite body cameras and oversight. Evidence tampering remains a threat to justice, and racial profiling continues affecting countless Americans daily. However, progress is possible when communities demand change and institutions respond appropriately. Thompson's victory was individual, but the reforms it sparked benefit everyone who believes in equal justice under law. His military service provided protection that many citizens lack, but his advocacy work aims to extend those protections to all Americans, regardless of their background or institutional connections. The next chapter of this ongoing story depends on viewer engagement and community action. Thompson continues his military service while advocating for reform through speaking engagements, congressional testimony, and educational outreach. His personal experience serves a greater purpose by illustrating how ordinary citizens can create extraordinary change when they refuse to accept injustice. Subscribe for more stories of accountability and justice, where ordinary people stand up to corruption and create positive change in their communities. Hit the notification bell to catch every episode featuring teachers who expose school district fraud, nurses who blow the whistle on hospital corruption, construction workers who prevent environmental disasters, and teenagers who challenge discriminatory policies. Share this story across your social networks and tag friends who need to see how persistence and courage can overcome institutional prejudice. Comment below with your own experiences, your location, and your commitment to supporting justice in your community. Your voice matters in building a movement that protects everyone's constitutional rights. The next Marcus Thompson might be watching this video right now, facing their own moment of injustice and wondering if anyone will stand up for them. The next corrupt officer might reconsider their actions, knowing that accountability is possible and consequences are real. What will you do with Thompson's example? How will you use your platform, however small, to create positive change in your community? The conversation starts in the comments, but real change happens when viewers become advocates for justice in their daily lives. Justice isn't just about punishment after wrongdoing occurs. It's about prevention, protection, and progress that benefits everyone who believes in the promise of American democracy.